Without wasting any time, I will give you guys an overview and requirements, what you will need to get this done smoothly. So, as I have already told you in introduction that we're gonna be building the venue booking API, and then the key points that we're going to touch overview of what you are going to build. It's a venue booking system with venue listing, user bookings, payment, and notification. And the tech stack that you're going to need, backend is going to be fully ASP.NET Core C Sharp. And then database, we're using SQL Server. And then front end, we're going to use React. And API documentation, we will have everything in Swagger. And then the tools that you just need Visual Studio Code, Postman to test your API, and SQL Server Management Studio, and Swagger UI to have this final product. And then setting up the development environment. It is important to set up your development environment first before attempting to build or start doing anything. So installing and setting up the required tools and installing the .NET Core SDK and creating backend project and installing the setting up the SQL Server, setting up the Swagger for API documentation, installing Node.js, setting up the React front end, and building the backend API, which is complete. So then for creating the venue booking API using ASP.NET Core, what you need to take care of is setting up the entity framework core and database migration. Don't worry about that. I will take you through when we get there, and you will require to build models for booking, venue, user payment, and notification, and also creating controllers for handling your CRUD operation, like your booking controller, venue controller, payment controller, notification controller, and implementing business logic for checking venue availability and processing payments and sending notification to the users who will be booking those venues for the wedding. And you will also need to do database setup and migration, creating and configuration the SQL Server database and setting up a database connection in the project and defining the database model, running migration to create tables, viewing and managing data in SQL Server Management Studio, and integrating payments and adding payments functionality using payment requests and all that. So you're going to learn also about processing payments for booking, validating payment details, and implementing the payment controller to manage payment processing, in testing payments with Postman. And for the front end, creating a front end, a fully functional front end for the booking system using React, it's very much easier. Then just stick with me, you're going to get it right. And setting up the React router for navigation and building components like your venue list for listing our venues, venue detail for viewing individual venues details, and booking form for booking a venue, and fetching data from an API and displaying it on the front end, handling calls and API requests. So we'll be fixing common cause issues in API development. You can't run away from it. So let me just try to explain it to you. Why cause? So then setting up cost policies in the backend, it's important to allow the front end to pull data from your backend system. So then sending an API request from the React or the client side and handling errors from the front end. And also we will finalize everything by deploying the application. So without wasting any time, let's start with this project. So then open your Visual Studio and in the template search for ASP.NET Core Web API, and then you select that and click next. And then let's call that venue venue booking API, and then select your location where you want to store your project and place solution and project in the same directory. Then leave it like that, and then click next, and then select .NET 8 long-term support and click create, and allow Visual Studio to create your project. So after creating your project, it needs to look something like this. So first thing first, you need to create your models. You just come here, let's create a new folder and call it models. Let's just rename it models. And you will need also to create a folder called data. And then controller is already there. It's created by default when you create a project. So you will need to now start defining your models. Remember, I told you that you're going to be defining models, and then the first thing first, or first and foremost, the first model that you need to define, you need to define a booking. So you come to the model folder, add a new item, which is a class, and name it booking. Let's add that. So remember what you need to define inside the booking class. You need to have your ID, which is going to serve as a primary ID. Then you need to have your user ID and the user and the booking date and the status and the venue. So what you have to do, you need to first say public int ID. Then you're setting up your getters and setters, and then let's say public int venue ID. Let's set up the getters and setters. Let's say public venue. Let's check if it's now. Then venue, set that. Then we will say public and say public user. And let's make it capital U. Public user, and we check if it's now. And then pass it user and set that. And then public datetime, and then sign it booking date. And then public public string. You will be able to get status of the venue. So then there you go. The public class booking is now defined. So then just hit save for that. And then the next model that you need to define, it's the notification model. In the very same folder, come here and select new item, add a class and name it notification. And then inside the notification, you need to define a couple of properties. And then the first, it will be your ID, user message, and the boolean to see if the message is read in that notification, and then also date time to get the date time now. So first thing first, the same thing, public int ID, get that set, then public int user ID, get that set. And also you need to make sure that you follow exactly how I am defining these properties. So the user would be that set it, and then this one will say public string message, and public bool is boolean. So instead of that, we'll say is red, and we will also do the public date time, public date time, and created at get that set. So maybe at the end you can try to get the current date time by saying equals to datetime dot now. Then the next model that you need to define is the property. So then you're coming inside the model, create a new class and name it payment. Then you add that. Let's do the same, public integer, get that ID, then public int, getting the booking ID, and let's do public decimal. So then for me to use that decimal, I'm using decimal because now we're trying to store an amount. And so then when we store more digits, we use decimal because it is an amount. And so we will say public string to get the payment method. So we say payment method, set that. There you go. And the next model, you need to define the payment request. So then this one is going to request payment from the user when they book. So let's name it payment request. You do public int with an ID, and then do public int then booking ID. So then there's one-to-many relationship in all these models and database which are going to represent our database table. So then the public int booking ID and public int ID, they will be sharing this table together. Then we'll say again public decimal amount that we've been requesting from the user. Let's just correct that to say decimal. And we will do public string payment method. Let's set that. And then let's create a model for user. So then come here and do the very same thing and name it user. So then what you need to define inside the user, you need to define an ID, username, password, email, and a role of that user, right? So let's get that public int ID, and then let's do public string username to store a username, and then let's do public string password hash to store password, and let's do public string email to store an email, and let's do public again and string role to store a role of that particular user. So then that is done, and let's now define the venue. So then the venue, what you need to have, you need to create a class, and let's name it venue and define the properties for the venue. So then inside the venue properties that you need to define an ID as always, which is going to be used as a primary key for that, and then you define the name, location, description, and the price of that venue, and average rating, because we want users to rate our venue. So we need to have that rating so that other users can see if it's rated 2-star, 3-star, or 5-star. So we need to also have an array of images and also venue rating and the owner ID, and then the property to get the owner of that venue. And the owner will be able to see what users are rating their venues. So then let's start. So we will say public int ID as always, and we do the public string name, and we do the public string to store the location, and then get and the setters, and then we do public public string description to get the description of that venue, and we do public again decimal. So this time we're doing decimal to store a price. Remember I told you that if it's a price or an amount or anything that is dollar, you need to give it data type of a decimal. So then you say public decimal price and then have that get and set. And you need to also do public double. Double is for the rating, to get the average rating, because some will be rating this venue. So we need to store it as double. So it will say public double and average rating, and store that. And then we do public list an array of venue image, and then let's give it images, and then we set that. So we will do also the same for the public list array of venue rating and give it ratings. Have that, and we will have the public int owner ID to get the ID of that. Then we will do the public user owner. We will do the public user owner. Let's just rectify that quickly. It needs to be user and then owner and get that. So let's save that. So we need to also define the model for venue image. So what we need to define properties inside the model of venue image, we need the image ID and venue ID and the image URL and description of that. So then inside the very same folder of models, what you need to do, you need to come here and create another class to store those properties. So then let's call this one venue image. So without wasting any time, we give it an ID. Needs to be public int ID and then public int venue ID and then public string image URL to store the URL, and we need to also have public string description. Let's save that. Then the last model that you need to define, it needs to be your venue rating, and make sure that you define the properties, everything inside that venue rating. So then let's create the venue rating model. So the properties that you need to define inside the venue rating is same ID, venue ID, and we will also define the rating value. And we will set our rating to be of the rating from 1 to 5, and we will then define the comment. But we can make it optional to get comment from the user, and also date of the rating. So we will define date time and rating date. So then let's do public int ID. Let's do public int venue ID. And let's do public double rating value. Remember, when we store the rating value, we store it as double. And we need to also make the public string comment from the user. And we need also to make sure that we do public date time, public date time. And this date time, just for your information, if we like, we can check if it's not null, but we're not doing that this time. So then we will keep it as that and give it the rating time. Let's give it a rating date. So then this will store date of the rating. Let's save that. And we need now to come and create our controllers. So then the first controller, let's create a controller. Make sure to create an MVC controller. Select empty, which will allow you to create an empty controller since we're building this from scratch. So then select that, and then let's add that, and then let's name it booking controller. So then this booking controller, we will need to start by creating the controller of the booking. So it's easy, just highlight that and delete it. So then we will do API controller, and then now let's create our route. Then let's route that to API / then give it controller, and then now let's come here and say public class booking controller, colon and say control base. This will be controller base. Then inside that, curly brackets, and then inside the curly brackets, that's when you will say private read only, to read only string from your application DB context. So then you will say private read only application DB context, let's say underscore context. You have that. Then what you need to do, you need to now say public booking controller and pass the application DB context. Let's write context, application DB context, and give it a context. Let's give it a context. So then inside that we will pass underscore context and assign it to context. So then we will then have to do the HTTP get. HTTP get, we build that, then we do public async task iaction result, then this will allow us to get bookings. So we'll say get bookings as a function. So we will do that. We do that. Then inside that, we will then have say to var bookings equals to, we await that context. So we say underscore context bookings. Then we need to say a dot include, let's make a B for booking, and then B dot venue. That's what we're trying to get, right? So let's do that. Okay, you just need to make sure that you include all the properties that you're trying to pull. So then here I say dot include B, then trying to pull that venue. So I will come and say dot include B let's just rectify that. It's B. Let's change it to user, and we close that, and we do dot to list async, right? And we return bookings. So let's return bookings But just to play it safe, let's do it like this. Let's do it like this. Let's say return okay, and then we get the bookings, right? And then now we will do a post. We'll do a post because remember we did a get. So then now what we need to do, we need to do HTTP post. Let's get this casing right. So then it will be that. Then HTTP post, it's easy. So then let's say public async. Let's make it a task to retrieve. Then I action results. I action results. Create booking and then the booking we have to include, let's include from body and close it, and then booking, and then pass it a booking. And let's open curly bracket, and let's say var venue equals to await venue dot find async. Then let's give it booking dot venue ID. Then let's make an if statement to see that if venue is equals to now, then let's return bad request, or you can say return venue not found. So then in this case, what we will do, we will say I'm choosing to return bad request instead of returning not found. So then in this case, what you need to do, you need to say venue not found, full stop. And then you close that. You're going to return that, right? And then which is that. Then now the most important thing, you need to check if the venue is available on the booking date. So then let's make a comment here saying check if the venue is available on the booking date. So then how do we check that? How do we run those checks? So it's easy. You need to say bool. Remember that property we have created, bool is available, right? So then you will come here and say bool is available. equals to not await underscore, let's do await, then underscore context dot booking async context dot booking async b, which is that, and needs to be a b, not a bool. So then it should be that, and b equals to b dot venue ID equals to booking dot venue ID. So then instead of saying booking dot venue ID and close it, we can incorporate something in there. So then let's do it like this. Venue ID, and then we can do this operator and say b dot booking date. This is to get the booking date. The booking date dot date. Then it should be booking dot booking date. Then we need to do another if statement to see if it's not available. So then we'll say if is available. No, it needs to be if it's not, if it's not, then we will say it's available. Then return bad request. So we will say venue is not available on the selected date. Then you close that, and then let's close it. So we need to have that closing tag. So then once that is closed, you need to do the context. Let's say, for the fun of it, let's say underscore context dot bookings. It's underscore context booking dot add booking. Then what you need to do, you need to await and save the changes added. So then the most crucial part and interesting part, now you need to check or deliver the booking confirmation once the user booked that venue. So then what you need to do, let's make another comment and say, here we're sending booking confirmation to the user, right? So then we need to come and say await send notification, send notification. Then we can say booking dot, we're getting it by user ID. Then let's make a check, user ID, and then we will say booking confirmed, and say your booking has been confirmed. This is what, remember, we're trying to make sure that we pass communication to the user who will be trying to book our venue. So then we will need to have this confirmation sent out to the user. So we need to have that your booking has been confirmed. Then let's close that. Let's close that. Then once the booking is confirmed, we need to return booking created successfully. So we need to say return, okay, and inside that we can say booking created successfully. Booking created successfully. So then out of that, what needs to happen is to close that with the curly brackets, and then we do now the send notification method. So then let's say private async task and send notification. And then we will send notification based on the user ID, title, and the message. So then we say int user ID, string title, and string message, right? So we will do it like that. We'll do it like that. var notification equals to new notification Then the new notification must be furnished with user ID equals to user ID, right? So then message as well must be equals to message, right? And then it's read to see if that boolean is working. So we can always set it to false before it's read. Once the message is read, then this will be updated to true. So created at equals to, then here we're trying to grab the date time, like the current date time. So then what we need to say created at equals to datetime dot UTC now. So we will do it like that. Then let's close that. Right outside that, that's when we can await the notification. Then we add that notification, and we need to also await the context to save changes. Await context dot save changes, async, async, like that. So then now we are done, fully complete with our booking controller. So then don't worry or don't mind about where it is complaining. It's complaining about the DB context because we haven't created that as yet. Then we're going to create the DB context now. So let's jump in onto data. You come onto the data folder and then you create another class, and the new item needs to be that class, and let's name it application DB context. Application DB context. This is where the connections and everything is going to be established from. So let's name it application DB context, and then let's add that, and let's start right away to build our application DB context. So then before anything, what we need to do, we need to assign it DB context. We say colon and DB context, and then inside that we must make sure that we do public application. Let's fix that. Public application DB context. Then DB context options. So let's say DB context options. DB context option, and then we list the options that we have, which is the application DB context. Which is the application DB context. Then we can now say pass options. Then besides passing an option, we can say colon, and then we do a base options. And then let's leave it like that. The option, let's leave it empty because we have already assigned that. So then now we can come and inject everything. So we'll say public DB set, then let's inject user. Let's inject user and give it users, and put our getters and setters. So then same thing for all those, we'll say public DB set, then we will inject venues that we need to list and give it venues, then like that. And then we will say public DB set and booking, then bookings. We assign it or give it bookings. Then we will say public DB set payment, or let's get the payment request. So then we give it payments, then get and set like that. Then let's do public db set, then we list the venue image. So then same as that, we will give it venue images. Then let's move on. Public db set, public db set. Then let's pass the venue rating and give it venue ratings, and then public db set. Then we give it notifications. We need to give it notification, then pass it notifications. So then on model creating, like to create your model builder, we can do it like this. So it's super easy. It's super easy and straightforward. So then let's say protected override void on model creating. Then let's give it a model builder, then say model builder. Then do it like this, based on model creating, and pass it that model builder. And then now we can say model builder dot entity, because we're using entity framework. Then we go into list, or try to get the payment request. So then payment request, that instead of saying to table, let's say to property, p equals to that. Let's say p dot, let's get the amount, p dot amount. So then, because it's that column that we're going to store decimal values for that amount, so then we need to specify. So let's say dot has column type. So column type, then let's give it a decimal. Let's give it decimal, maybe to store values like from 18 to 18 to, then close that. And then you need to do the same also for the venue price. Remember, that's the payment request price. Then we need to also get the venue price and identify that property that it is a column, and then we're gonna be storing the decimal values. So then to store these decimal values, we need to identify that property, and the property we must do has the column type, and the column type we need to pass decimal and 18.2. So then let's say model builder.entity, then inside that let's give it venue. So after giving it venue, one step down, let's say property v. So then for payment, remember we just use p. So then for venue, we can just say v dot, and let's v dot, or maybe let's not say v dot, let's say v, that then we can say v dot price, right? Then we can now say dot has column type, and then we specify that column type that is a decimal. So decimal 18 and 2, and then we close that. So then now we are done with our DB context. So then the next important thing is to create our DB. So creating our DB, we will run some migrations, and then entity will then do the rest for us. That's the great thing about entity framework. You don't have to write almost everything by yourself. So that's great. And let's create the payment controller. Before installing a lot of packages, we can have payment controller and the venue controller. That should be the next two controllers left. But it's the same thing as creating those bookings controller. So let's adjust our program files. So we will then have to say, add service under where you see add service to the container. Then you need to add your connection string. You need to say builder dot service services dot add db context, and then application db context, and you give it an options, Let's give it options. Options. So let's do it like this. Then what we can do, we can then say options dot use SQL Server. Remember, we're using SQL Server, so we can say builder dot configuration dot get connection string. We're getting the connection string, and then what is that connection type? So then it's the default connection, so then we will say default connection, say default connection. Then let's have that closed and get rid of that extra bracket. So another thing, we need to builder dot services dot, here we're adding controllers, so we'll say add controllers, then it's a function, so that everything is rendered. So then not now, you will be required also to add the CORS policy. So then CORS is cross-origin resource sharing. So then you allow two applications to communicate with each other. So then in our case, we will be building our fully venue booking API service, the backend system, a fully functional one, to feed our front end that you're going to build in React. So it will be consuming data from this API service. So then we need to enable CORS. So then we need to do that. For the sake of learning, let's do add CORS. Let's keep it up later. Add CORS policy. So under that, make sure that you do builder dot services then dot add CORS. Let's add CORS. Then inside that, what we need to have, we can have options. So then let's do it like that. Options, then let's have that. Let's have that and say options dot add policy. Then what policy are we adding? We're adding the allow all origins policy. So we'll say allow all origins. allow all origins. Then we will have builder equals that. So let's have that. So we will say builder dot allow all origins. No. Builder dot allow, let's say allow any. So we're not filtering. Let's say allow any origins. Allow any origin. And we can say dot allow any method, and we can also say dot allow any header. So if we say dot allow any header, you can see that we're getting that. Then we can have that. Let's close that. Right? So before the redirection, you need to say app dot use course. You're allowing your app to use course. So inside that, you will have allow all origins. Allow all origins. All right, so don't worry about complaining about that and that. So what we need to do here is to give it the missing semicolon. Give it what it wants. So yeah, let's go ahead and set up our application settings. So our application settings, we need to come right down here. You see where it says allowed host. So then just come here and say connection strings. Then inside that connection string, let's have your default connection. The default connection. default connection and give it. So then since we're using the SQL Server, I will say server, yeah, it's local host, we're running it locally, and let's give it the database name. So database name, we will do database name equals to, you can give it any name that your mind can convince you to give. So in this case, database name, I will recommend calling it wedding underscore venue. So wedding venue, it will be the DB name, and you will need to say trusted connection, and then assign it true, multiple active results, set, then also give it true, then close that, and let's say trust server certificate, trust server certificate, then also give it true, and then close that. So then let's open our DB and create our database before installing all our packages. So we will open our DB. This is our local DB. Let's connect. Inside the DBs, let's create another database, a new DB. So then let's call this database wedding underscore venue, and we say okay. The database is created. So now we need to install all the packages and frameworks. So then first thing first, we need to install Microsoft Entity. Instead of going to the NuGet package here on manage NuGet package, we will use the tools and install everything from the NuGet package manager console. So then we'll come here. Once the PowerShell is initialized, we will say install dash package space Microsoft dot entity framework core dot SQL Server. There you go. So then also to install the entity framework core tools. Let's do it like this. There you go. And we need to also install the Swashbuckler for Swagger API documentation. So it's like that. Then one more important thing we need to install. We need to install the automapper. You know that automapper for mapping between models and your DTOs. It's optional, but we have to install it. So then let's install that. And we can then install the Fluent validation for ASP.NET. Let's install that. And we need to install the course configuration for cross-origin request. So then the package for that is microsoft.asp.net core.course. So then let's get that installed. Then we will then have to install the Newton soft.json. And for logging, we'll be using Serilog. So let's install Serilog. And then now let's do our migration. Add migration, build started. Okay. Let's verify our files. Let's fix that. Let's fix that. Let's get that fixed. Let's get that fixed. Then let's close that. For it not to complain, let's close that. Venue.find. We're doing that to fix the problem. So then we will then have to say venue.find async. Let's find async and see. Venue.find async. So then instead of that, let's say context.venues, then dot find async, then let's give it bookings.venue ID, just like that. So let's see if we have another errors. There's that. Let's generate a type. Let's do that. Then let's see if we have another errors before we run a build to migrate. There. Let's do that. Let's do that. Let's do that. We're doing it. Let's do that. Okay, so then on the booking, instead of awaiting that, we can do it like this. So we await to save changes only. So we don't have any more errors. So then let's control build. Voila. So now what we need to do, we need to run a migration. And let's come here on the console and add a migration. Let's run the migration. So build succeeded. Then there's an error. Continue without application service. Error failed to load configuration from file service. Venue booking API. Application settings. Unable to create a DB context of that type. But then let's update our DB. So it's not finding applications or settings. So activate that. All right, so then for now we will be trying to debug and see if everything looks correct. So then the last step that we're going to do is to add migration initial create. Then we will update the DB. So let's say add migration initial create. Let's see. Oh, so it looks like there's an issue with how our venue property in the booking entity is being made, right? So then the entity framework does not automatically understand how to map properties of type object in this case. And at some point, it will require you that for your properties must either be primitive types like your integer strings, etc., or any valid entity types, classes that EF Core can track in the database. So then in our case, what I can suggest, the property booking dot venue appears to be of a type object, which by virtue entity framework cannot be able to map that to a table. So then to fix that, you need to ensure that booking venue is properly defined as a relationship to the venue entity, right? So then let's go and apply that fix. So then where are we fixing? We're fixing on the model of our booking.cs. So then in our booking.cs, we must make sure that our foreign key for the venue and navigation property for the venue and foreign key for the user and navigation property for the user, it's correctly mapped, right? So then what we're going to do, we're going to make sure that we do things correctly. Let's not check that, and let's not check that, and let's remove this internal object. Let's remove this internal object, which is somehow causing an issue. So we're good, and now we're going to make sure that we update on model creating on the application DB context. So then let's save that, and then we go there and we try and have that solved. So we will just try to replace that and make sure that this property venue, it's something that we must make sure. All right, so then now everything that we have to do, we just need to make sure that for nullable properties, we use the null check and make sure to remove any nullability related checks for nullable types. So then after doing that, we all set, right? So then what we're going to do is to make sure that we run our project. So then let's try to run our project, starting it. Voila. So then now if you check here, you will see that all our APIs are in order. So then we have got an API to get all the bookings. We've got an API to get all the bookings and API to post all the bookings. So we can post all the bookings, all that we want. And then we have got an API to process a payment. So then this API to process a payment is only called when the user is attempting to make a payment. So then it will hit this API. So then on the venue, we have different APIs for the images, for ratings, for venue itself, to get the venue and to post the venue, and to get the venue by ID, which is cool, right? So then thank you so much, and I shall see you on the next one when we build the front end.